Welcome to Fortitude and Flow, conversation that gives you mental strength and inspiration. Today I'm talking with Luis Alberto Bardi, a former firefighter who left it all behind to live as a traveling nomad. We'll dive into his journey, mindset, and how he's created a life full of freedom and adventure. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, amigo.
It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this. You are living the dream that everybody wants to. So it's going to be very, very exciting to hear how you actually managed to go from being a firefighter to actually choosing totally different lifestyles. I think we can just jump straight into it. And I would say that firefighting is one of the most intense professions. What originally pulled you toward that career?
You know what? I wanted to be a firefighter ever since high school. It was between police officer and firefighting. And I actually went around in the city I grew up in Canada called Winnipeg. And I went and spoke at different fire halls just to speak with real firefighters, about what the lifestyle was like, about, what the job entailed. And I just felt like my characteristics of not wanting to work like a 9 to 5 job in an office. I grew up playing sports since I was very young, having that camaraderie. I thought my skill set would, do well in that career. Also, I think ever since I've been in high school, I've been a dopamine addict where I always like excitement. And so I always knew that firefighting would, provide that for me. So that was originally the reason why I wanted to join.
And also, I was thinking, yeah, we can go to that afterward, but what kind of mental toughness or mindset does that job build that most people don't understand? You need to be very fit. You need to have the mental. It's a lot of training. It's not for everyone.
Well, just as an example, when I applied for Vancouver Fire Department in 2012, there was they took in 800 resumes. They invited 100 and something people to do the first stage to get on a fire department in a major city in North America. It's more than a year process. You got to start off with the aptitude. Well, first of all, you have to start off with them even accepting your resume. After they accept your resume, then there's an aptitude exam, and then there's physicals, and then there's station assignments where you actually go and spend a day in the fire halls and then have them critique you, and then there's interviews, the reference checks, criminal record checks. So by the time it's all said and done, it's well over a year. But you know what, for me, I've always been very competitive, and have always enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed that competitive side of anything that I do, and I think that firefighting, getting on a different department, really brought that out in me, because within 4 years I was able to get on 3 different full-time fire departments in Western Canada. And I love that feeling of, like, of competing against other men and women, and studying, trying to be the smartest person in the room, trying to be in the best shape possible for the physical exams. I just really enjoyed that portion of it.
That's it makes sense though for people who are very interested in competing and stuff, and also I think that having that state of mind is also very good in life because you will always strive to become better, and that's a very good quality, I think. And obviously we have to. You did. You're from Canada. We have to born and raised, or
No, I was born in El Salvador. My ancestors are Italian, from a town named Bardi in northern Italy. But after World War II, a lot of Italians moved to Latin America, and I was actually born in El Salvador. And after the Civil War that we had in the early '80s, my family left as refugees, first for the United States for a year and a half, and then Canada.
okay. So you have a your family have a very actually deep background then.
Let's just say I've been a digital nomad almost since I was born.
That's a good answer. Yes. I was also thinking when it comes to firefighting, do you have any particular stories you can like that really you remember today? Because you experience so many things in a job like that, helping people and saving lives and
You know what? I left EMS, firefighting, and being a paramedic in November 30th of 2017 for good. And I've worked in various fire departments and paramedic services and private industrial services as well. One thing that I always carry with me is having passion for life, because from what the calls that I saw is we are never guaranteed, the next day. And, I could tell you, for example, for a call when I was working for a town called Vegreville EMS as a paramedic, it was just a regular evening, and a man got off a bus and he was crossing a very high speed highway, and he wasn't looking both ways, and a high speed van ran into him and crushed him. And I don't mean to sound explicit, but I mean, when we got to the call, imagine a human being being hit by a 130 kilometers per hour vehicle. And so just seeing like those body parts and some of the things that I saw, those memories will never leave me. And so it makes me appreciate life a lot. And another call that just comes out of my mind is in 2014 was a Vancouver firefighter just showing up to a call at a park where a man was up on a hill hanging, and I had to cut him down and try to resuscitate him, even though he had just killed his own family, and then committed suicide. So, I have nothing but love and admiration for firefighters and paramedics and even police, because it's not an easy career. Now that my life has completely changed, I'll always speak very highly of those people.
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree. I mean, these people they go in trauma situations daily. And for them to, function, I think, during the job and after, and also in life, is that type of profession is not for everyone. And what you said there, I mean, that's like really traumatizing to experience something like that. And those are the heroes on the line every day, trying to take care of the rest of us who is not doing that type of job. It's very totally different. It was a few years back. I was on this security course when I was doing my license to work on the boat, and we were actually we had to go into where you go into a room full of smoke, and everything was dark. It was really warm and it was really heavy with all of these equipment you had to carry to put the fire out and stuff. You really have to be in good shape to do this job as well. And not to panic, because it was so easy to actually do that when everything was so dark. So how do you mentally prepare yourself to go into a building that is burning and you have people there, and you have to take care of your partners as well?
Well, you train a lot, first of all, and the people that can't handle it usually are weeded out in the academy. Like we had three or four people from the last fire department I worked on. Just they couldn't handle it. Maybe it was because they didn't have the right proper mentality or even the physical strength to continue on with the job. And so I find that like a lot of departments, they really push you early in the academy, so they find out if you're meant for that career or not. But you always trust your captains and your lieutenants, because those people are the ones that have been doing it for 20 or 25 years.
Yeah, no, of course, it makes sense. When you do train to something, you will actually see if it's made for you or not, if you can do it. And it must have been an amazing career to have. I was, when I was a child, I was thinking becoming that or a police, but I ended up doing podcast instead. Maybe I regret it now, but this is fun too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I was thinking as well, when you were leaving that profession, firefighting is also a very respected and stable job. What made you realize it was time to leave that world behind? What changed your mind? Was it something that happened or just new dreams?
You know what? Firefighting is an absolutely amazing career, but I had always had bigger ambitions of things that I wanted to do in this life, and especially living in Vancouver, which has a pretty big entertainment scene. I had a friend who had an agent, and he was getting work as a background actor and as a model, who recommended that I start sending my photos into his agent. And so I did, and I was able to get a lot of work right away. And I just found that as I got older, that like I found that I had more in common with people that were more creative, directors, actors, people that just worked in the film industry. and they really brought out a new side of me that I was just starting to explore. And I just found that, I didn't have to do that career for 30 years to realize that life is precious. And I remember sometimes going on calls and just like looking out the window and being like, I'm not happy right now. This isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. And, after working for multiple departments and medical services, I just decided to make a change, this was like in 2014. And so just like, I wanted to go see the world. And so in 2015, I was able to save up enough money from working in the oil and gas industry as an industrial paramedic and go travel the world for a year. And that's when I really realized, I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to try to create a lifestyle for myself where I could live anywhere in the world and work from my laptop. And so just, gradually things have worked out, to be honest with you. And I couldn't be happier.
That's totally awesome, and I think that's basically the perfect transition, because we're going to talk about being a traveling nomad and that type of lifestyle. So going from firefighting to a traveling nomad is a big shift. How did that transition actually happen? Yeah, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but how do you actually, yeah, how do you actually work online to make this happen?
Well, I remember it started off with me getting inspired. In 2015, I remember I listened to this podcast called Travel Like a Boss by Johnny FD. He's an American guy who in 2009 left the US to go to live in Thailand. And he struggled for a few years to try to create the lifestyle that he had dreamed of. And so back in 2015, 2014, that term digital nomad was very, very new. And how he made his money was creating these drop shipping stores. But I knew that that wasn't my calling. And, just I was blessed by one time I went to the dentist's office and there was this magazine, which is very popular in Canada called Maclean's. And the Canadian government, sorry, the government that wanted to be in power the next time the elections were happening were called the Liberals. And the Liberals had started talking about legalizing cannabis. So, the investment side of my brain said, you know what, let's look into this. So I realized that there's, publicly traded companies that were going to be selling cannabis in dispensaries when it became legalized in 2018. So I bought it. I opened up trading accounts and I got into a lot of like stock trading groups on Facebook. So I was able to befriend a lot of other stock traders that had a lot more experience than me. And I would just like pick their brains. And then like I would just for like a year and a half, I worked my ass off. Every dollar that I made, I went and worked in the oil and gas industry where you make a lot of money, and I would spend every waking moment trying to become a better stock trader because I knew this was an opportunity of a lifetime. And I literally took $3,000 and turned it into $1.2 million by November 30th,
Wow.
2017. And so it changed my life. And so that was the start of something, throughout my travels the last decade. Now I teach online, I have students, I have clients. So I've been able to branch out and diversify myself. And so it's worked out.
I'll say it really worked out for you. That's really good. But I'm guessing it's a lot of work behind it too, because um, I was wondering what surprised you the most about living a more free and location independent life. What have you? What's the most joy you got from it? What would that be?
Well, brother, that every day is a new adventure. And, I didn't realize how grateful I was for my lifestyle until I recently went back to my hometown of Winnipeg and I hung out with some friends I grew up with in high school. And I just, I believe everyone is entitled to their happiness. If having a family, children, taking your children to hockey or sports, and family barbecues on the weekends, if that brings you happiness, hey, I'm so happy for you. But for me, that type of lifestyle, I always knew deep down in my heart, it wasn't for me. And so I created this ideology in my mind, like kind of like the laws of attraction. I'm like, man, this is what I think I want my life to be. And just, like the last 11 years have been phenomenal. And, I remember this one guy named Josh Buchanan. He's an American guy. I met him in Cabo, San Lucas, Mexico. and he was traveling around the world on a pedal bike, and I still keep in touch with him. I'm like, man, that's so cool. And so in 2020 during COVID, I went and got myself a bike on the eastern part of Canada, and I went and cycled the whole east coast of Canada, sleeping in a tent, sleeping beside behind churches, and I was so happy. And that's when I started realizing, well, man, like money is not the end all be all. What's important to me is freedom to be my own boss, freedom to live my life outside of the ordinary. Don't forget, I come from a very strict Catholic Latino family where, my parents want to see me married with children and stuff like that. But I live my life differently, and I'm very happy. Every week I get to meet very interesting people. Just in the last 6 weeks, I've been able to go to the Winter Olympics in Milan. I went to Milan Fashion Week. I was a part of that, and I just finished like a 48-hour film festival in Milan as well. So that's what brings me happiness, is like challenging myself and learning new skills.
That is so amazing just to hear this. I get so much inspiration out of it. And I've also been like that type of person. I'm a leaf blowing in the wind. I love it. So, I mean, and so many things we can go into here, but I was thinking like, for you to, it seems to me like you share that you worked yourself up from some amount of money to a lot of money. And that definitely has been helping you living this lifestyle, I'm guessing. And can you share how you did do that? How did you do it?
Well, I will say, like, I have spent a lot of the money so far, like in the last decade and stuff. But to create a sustainable lifestyle is you have to create different revenue streams. And what I mean by that is, I also sell hats and hoodies on my brand, teach as well, which is something I love to do, and to teaching stocks for me and cryptocurrencies. So, for example, last month I had a gentleman who was an African refugee in Milan. He could only afford 15 euros for the hour. I charge a lot more than that, but I knew I was going to try to help him and try to inspire him. So I have this Buddhist mentality of karma where, like, God's been good to me. I want to be good to other people, and if I could inspire somebody else, just how Johnny FD did through his podcast 11 years ago, I'm going to do it. And, I spent a lot of money. When I first made a lot of money was probably when I was the most unhappiest, to be perfectly honest with you. I went to my home country, El Salvador. I bought a beach house. I thought, this is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Like I was like 34, 35, 36 years old. And and after like 5 or 6 months, I was like, man, I'm so bored. I'm fucking miserable. This mentality of like, I want to make a lot of money and go sit on the beach is at least not for me. Unless you live that lifestyle for a while and you realize like every man needs to have purpose. And when you lose that purpose, then you turn to other things that aren't, like I turned to alcohol and smoking a lot of weed, to be honest with you. And now that I'm trying to be creative and doing these other projects, it's brought me a lot more joy and purpose.
You know what? That's the silver lining, what you said, that people need a purpose. Doesn't matter who you are, or you need to have something that you are passionate about or something to spend your time with. I totally agree with that. Me and a couple of friends had this conversation just a few days ago, and yeah, I mean, we talked about that. We need to have some purpose, and I can relate to what you were saying. It was a while in my life where I was very, I was quite sick, and I was very depressed, and I did not know what to do with my life or anything like that, or where to live. But finally, I find something that I wanted to do, and it gives me a lot of energy and a lot of joy, and it gives me these opportunities. I can talk to people like you, so that's really awesome. I was thinking as well, um, when we talked about when it comes to stocks and crypto, I was thinking that how would you learn that today? What would you recommend people? Because a lot of people start with this and they waste a lot of money in it.
You know what? Honestly, I completely understand. And it's very unfortunate that universities and high schools don't teach investments because it could literally change your life. There's not many careers in this world that you don't need an education. You don't have to be a pro athlete. You don't have to be beautiful. Like a beautiful woman that's a model that can, make money just on being a social media influencer or OnlyFans, whatever. But it takes a lot of time and effort And personally, how I learned was just joining stock trading groups and befriending like the smart people. You could always tell who the smart people that know what they're talking about are in these stock trading groups on Facebook. And that's how I started. And, YouTube, just finding someone that you trust. If you have these stock gurus, that they try to sell you this dream of like, hey, if you buy this course, this strategy is like where you're going to make X amount of money. Well, those are usually the biggest bullshitters in this world, because there's not one stock trader on this planet that has not had, losses. So I teach my students, it's like I teach them how to learn from your mistakes, how to learn from your losses. And I've taken big losses too. I've taken six-figure losses in the past, but I've always been confident. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bounce back. I take it. It's like you're paying your tuition to the industry, and you have to really
Yeah.
educate yourself. Everything in this planet is about education, and that's something my father taught me. My father, I love him to death. He's my biggest hero, but my father always taught me to work hard and get an education. And my dad has a master's degree. And so I just feel that I always want to continuously be learning. And like there's so many people that like go on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and they just spend hours just useless scrolling. When I use social media, it's to educate myself. When I go on YouTube, I'm learning, like now that I'm working on my own platform, I'm trying to educate myself on like learning about what angel investors are looking for. I'm learning about algorithms. I'm learning about how to edit shorts. I'm learning about, what's my best way to I could reach out to people. And it's a learning curve, of course, right? There's not a university course for this type of stuff, but it's all about, putting in the effort to try to better yourself each and every fucking day.
I totally agree. I mean, if you are curious about life and you are willing to learn, you can get you a lot of places. But it's a lot of work and discipline and hard work. You got to be motivated and dedicated to something and stick to it for a while. But I mean, with trading stocks and crypto, I would say, in my own experience at least, that it's very psychologically well. Especially when you are shorting and so many things to you need to know the areas you are going into, it seems, the markets, and if you're going into commodities, gold or silver, or is there any places you recommend people to actually learn from?
There is one group, and I love them to pieces. They're called the Chart Guys. The Chart
Okay.
Guys, they've built a platform for beginners, and also they have expert traders. They have a YouTube channel. They have Instagram following as well. The CEO founder, his name's Dan, and I owe everything, not everything, because obviously I had to put in my own effort. I owe so much to Dan. He is a humble man. He is a man that has done very well for himself the last 15 years and the stock market. This guy is everything that I aspire to be in this world. He's humble. He has a farm in, I believe, North Carolina, where in the morning he posts videos of him going to feed his chickens, his wildlife. He's everything that's right about the stock market. I've met so many CEOs in conferences, Zoom meetings. I've met so many CEOs that are multimillionaires, but they're pieces of shit, inside. And I can't stand those people. But the Chart Guys, I back them 100%. I have no affiliation with them. But if you're to follow them, they have a lot of free content right now. And if you like, a lot of the stuff that I've learned is through them. And they are honestly good people.
Yeah, I will definitely leave those links in the show notes because I think that's something that people can definitely benefit from and learn if they are interested. So thank you for that. But when you are going into stocks and crypto, what is the first thing you start with? I think the crypto has been it's so many coins now, and it's blockchain technology. Should people just go and learn what the blockchain technology is? Should they start from scratch on everything, or?
Literally start from scratch and understanding. For example, my home country, El Salvador, they made Bitcoin a legal tender about 5, 6 years ago, which was a good start, but it was the wrong cryptocurrency, because Bitcoin is meant to be a storage of value. That's why they call it the digital gold. Bitcoin transactions per second are about 7, whereas I'm having my own cryptocurrency built where we're using a layer 1 Solano. Solano is up to 65,000 transactions per second. So what happened in El Salvador was there's a huge backlog, a lot of freezing, a lot of problems. So imagine you know, and trying to go buy groceries with the Bitcoin, when it's new and it doesn't work, so obviously it upset a lot of people, and a lot of people don't ever want to believe in cryptocurrencies because they had the right idea, but not the right education.
Yeah, okay.
Bitcoin is not meant to be used for day-to-day peer-to-peer or business-to-business transactions. It's not. And the way I explain to people wherever I go is, listen, Bitcoin is being propped up right now by billionaires because they want to push a story where it could reach $1 million. I completely disagree. I compare this, and I was very young at that age, but in the late 1990s, where AOL. Do you remember? Like, are you old enough? Do you remember like AOL? Like, you had to like plug in, the line, so you could use the internet, and there's like the modem and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That was a very
The
early
old the
stage.
old modem. Yeah,
Yes,
I had
yes,
that.
yes, yes. So that's how I explain Bitcoin. It was the first one out there. Okay. It was the first one out there, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the best one. I honestly don't see Bitcoin being around in 5 or 10 years. Oh, but you have to, when you
Okay.
think of cryptocurrencies, because they're not generating revenue, it's not like you can analyze it like a stock where like you're analyzing its balance sheet, its income statement, its cash flow statement. You can't do that with cryptocurrencies, but you have to analyze its utility. What is its utility? What is it going to do in this world? How it's going to help people. And just like keeping things simple, that's going to help you out a lot. And to me, Solano, when you compare the market cap of Bitcoin of $1.3 trillion compared to Solano, which is $50 billion. Wow, that's more than 22 times its value. When Solana really has a lot more utility. So you have to think about these things. The best people that make money, I think, are people that have common sense.
Okay. Yes. So basically, you need to learn each individual crypto and what they actually can do for you,
Yes,
and the technology, basically, what they are on.
yes.
Because with new coins, new blockchain, there are newer technology and more powerful technology. Is that correct?
Yes. Think about humanity. Keep it simple. Think about where we're going society. What's the future trend? Well, you know what? How much mining energy does Bitcoin take compared to Solano? It's a fraction. How much does it cost per transaction to make a transfer on Solano compared to Bitcoin? It's a fraction. So just keep things simple and think of like, what would you do if you were to have one Bitcoin, if you're to have one Solano? One Bitcoin right now is what, $74,000, whereas Solano
Yeah, I
is
think
like
so.
92. So you have to compare. If you always want to go where there's value.
Yes, of course. But I think that for a lot of people, they don't really understand what crypto is. So how would you explain that? What is blockchain in crypto? How would you explain it for people who never have heard of it? How would you?
That it's a digital currency that's decentralized, and that you could make payments and transfer funds digitally online. Pretty much like it creates a new system of money that isn't centralized by a bank. And that's why a lot of major countries like in India, they don't allow cryptocurrency exchange changes because they can't keep track of where the money's going. They can't, most importantly, they want the tax revenue. Cryptocurrency is just a new way of exchanging currencies, exchanging funds, and it's only going to get better and better as society and technology goes on. It's a blockchain technology, which is like, so imagine, like, the easiest way I could explain it is like, imagine like you're playing Monopoly. Do you know Monopoly, the game Monopoly?
Yes,
Okay, so
yes,
imagine the blockchain is like the bank of monopoly, and somebody keeps track of like each transaction. So say like you bought that house on Boardwalk, okay, you paid say 400 monopoly dollars. Well, the blockchain will keep track on that. So each blockchain is building on that last transaction. So there's history behind it, but it's just a modern way to transfer wealth and currency and money, and it's also a storage of value.
It's a very good way to explain it. Actually, I understood everything very easy. So there, so that was a very good way to look at it. Definitely, and you can put a lot of technology into this as well, because it seems to me that they put a lot of AI now on blockchain technology as well.
Yeah, you know what? Like my dream is to be a CEO of a publicly traded company in the next 3 or 4 years. But now I'm coming up with my own cryptocurrency for my platform, and I'm really excited about it because you can actually do a lot more with cryptocurrencies as far as like creating smart contracts, voting rights, staking. Staking is something that's really interesting. That like, oh my God, if I could offer 10 or 12% interest, to people that say if you to buy my cryptocurrency and you don't sell it and you stake it, well, you know what? You're going to be rewarded by 10 or 12% interest payment. How much is a your regular bank paying you nowadays? 5, maybe 6%. So you just
Maybe.
just by you not selling that cryptocurrency, I can pay you. What stock can do that besides getting paid a dividend? But most dividends pay 3, maybe 4% on a value stock.
Yeah,
Most growth stocks don't pay any type of dividends. And I could create pretty much a dividend payment from day one.
I think that's very interesting, and that's the thing with the crypto. It compete the old system out, and this gives everyone in the world a chance to earn some money or
Yes,
be a
yes.
part of new technology, and that's really good. People from all continents can learn this, and they can be a part of something that can give them wealth and their family and loved ones too.
You know why I love cryptocurrencies is because my brain is 24/7. And if I'm in Asia, if I'm in Latin America, if I'm in Canada, it doesn't matter. 24/7 I could trade cryptocurrencies. You can't trade the stock market like that. Do you know how last few years I've been living in Asia? Do you know how annoying it is to trade the Nasdaq when I have to be up from 9:30 p.m. till 3:30 a.m.? You know what I mean? Like, and so it's I only see cryptocurrency growing and growing, especially with Gen Z. But you have to educate them because the worst part is, having someone that's worked hard for say $3,000. They work their asses off, and then having them lose all that money, and then they get discouraged, and then they don't want to, invest again.
Yeah, I mean that they get scared of it, and I understand that, and it takes a long time to maybe earn those money up again. So education is definitely the key word here, and that is like you need to find the right education or learn from someone. Or I do know that some of these sites like Binance or I guess it's Coinbase and these type of things, and other places too as Revolut, they have some learning academies there too, where you can learn a little bit at least.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, I think it's probably good to get some education there. And I was thinking with everything that is going on now, I think it's very important that we also talk about AI, because that's the new thing right now. The fourth industrial revolution is coming now. It's already here, and AI is taking over a lot of jobs, but it's also creating a lot of jobs. So, what is your view on that?
You know what? I was too young for the internet industrial revolution in the late 1990s, but I'm definitely not not too young for this one. And I'm working 16, 17, 18 hours a day, educating myself on how I could, accelerate my businesses using AI. And yes, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses are going to be left behind. But it's not like we're going to go backwards. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, he's going to spend $600 billion over the next 4 or 5 years on AI. AI is here to stay. So the strongest people are the people that like understand it and learn how to use it. Have you heard of AI agents?
Yes, I've heard of AI agents, and they can help you with the doing, for example, work for you on the podcast. They can help you with writing things for you. They can help you to post videos and stuff like that. I've heard. We were talking about AI. That's where we were.
Okay. Yes, I think that I believe that the people that jump on board and the people that educate themselves are going to succeed. You are going to see teenagers become millionaires like never before. And the thing about I've always learned about entrepreneurship and business is efficiency, and AI is really helping people that they don't need a team of 10 people anymore. You need a team of maybe two or three. And it's very sad that it's going to delete a lot of jobs, but we all need to be able to pivot. Just how, after the first industrial revolution which started in England, where people left the fields, and moved to the urban centers and started working in factories. And, then there was the second industrial revolution, the invention of the combustible engine, and obviously the third industrial revolution with technology in the internet. You have to be able to pivot. The companies that are going to do the best are the ones that are going to be able to pivot the fastest.
How do you educate yourself on AI? I mean, where is so much information out there, but how do you find the right information?
How do I find the right information? Honestly, what I personally do is read as many books as I can, and sometimes it's not even about where we're going as far as technology. Sometimes it's like learning about the past. So a book that I highly recommend for people that are aspiring people and entrepreneurs is a book called The Art of War. This book was written by the Chinese, over 2,000 years ago. But some of these principles are so important that are still taught at Harvard business schools and stuff. On understanding humans, understanding psychology. These are things that aren't talked about enough. So as a stock trader, for over a decade now, I've seen, the stock market is driven by two characteristics: fear and greed. And actually, fear is a lot stronger. So I go into these chat groups on Reddit and CEO.ca, on Facebook, and I just sit back and I study people's emotions when the stock is going up. And then I study them when it's going down. And it's very like bipolar, to be honest with you, how people change so quickly. But you study it and you try to get on the proper wave. So you want to ride the stock or the cryptocurrency up, and then you want to get down, you want to get off of it before the ride, before there's before it goes down. And
Yes.
the psychology in investing is something that's not talked enough about.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And I think that's probably a missing part because people don't think about that. They think about the numbers and they think about their technique or their way to actually do it, but not the psychology and how maybe people are not even aware that much how they actually react if they have a win or they have a loss. And but what do you think is the most important thing to have as a stock trader, or what's the best quality you need to have?
Resiliency and being humble and being able to learn from your mistakes, because money comes and goes. My best month, I made over $100,000. My worst month, I lost $100,000 overnight. But that me losing that $100,000 gave me an opportunity to learn something that I'll have for the rest of my life. And
Yeah, that's a
understand.
lot of money.
But you know what? For me, it's okay. It doesn't bother me, because the lesson that I learned from that trade, like I said, is going to be something that, it's for me, it's like a payment into the stock market. It's like the education that you have to pay. It's a tuition, and the thing that really bothers me about these stock trading gurus online is that they always talk about their wins, but they never talk about their losses. And unfortunately, we all have to take a loss in the stock market, but it's what you learned, the education that you got from that loss. You know what I mean? And so I'm very honest about everything in my life. You know what I mean? Stock trading is no different.
And what did you learn from that?
Well, it was a trade that occurred. It was in November of 2024. It was November 6th, I want to say. And what happened was I was investing in a company called Air Wellness. They're a cannabis company, and they were very over leveraged as far as debt. to how much revenue they were producing. The amount of ROI that it could return for me in this trade, if it went good, it would have been exponential compared to other stocks that are in cannabis sector. And so I made this trade on pretty much betting that the government in Florida was going to legalize cannabis recreationally. And one
Okay.
thing, I learned from it was, man, there's so much corruption in government. There's so much, especially in the United States, and so DeSantis did, which is the governor of Florida, he did everything in his power to block this. And so, but I believed in it so much because I was watching so much content on social media that I'm like, no, this is going to pass. You know, a lot of other states have gone recreational. I really felt that it was going to pass, and then it failed. It failed by like 4 or 5 points, but literally overnight, I dropped like my investments and my clients' investments drop significantly amount. And I learned so much from it. But I will never ever invest or trade a political vote because that's really what it was. And so, yeah, that's something good to learn is like, don't ever invest in a vote.
No, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of corruption everywhere, actually, probably all countries. So, and I was thinking, how do you manage to get your mindset up from something like that? Were you depressed after? Were you in shock? Were you?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I remember like it was yesterday. I was living in a beautiful island, Koh Rong in Cambodia. And
Oh, nice.
I remember calling my client, like I had a beautiful view, but I felt like such a piece of shit inside. Because for me, when I have my clients' money and my money, for me, I treat my clients' money like my own money, and I have a very high expectations of, the return on investments that I want to provide for my clients, and me losing my clients' money. But I'm a very honest person as well. And it's a very difficult call to make my clients of like, hey, you know what? The vote didn't go our way. It was very difficult. I don't care about myself. I really don't care about myself. I can live my life rich or poor. But when other people trust me with their money, it really affects me. So yeah, it was very, very difficult. And I was very upset about it for a while. But you could just got to promise them that you're going to bounce back from it, and you're going to learn from it, and you're going to make their money back on a different trade.
Yes, I mean, like you said, that's how you learn, and it's a part of it, though. But like you said, don't ever go into when it comes to something political like that. It's
Yeah,
actually a very good. But also, when you read a lot of statistic, or do you? I mean, do you have one type of method when you are trading, or are you changing, or you mentioned Nasdaq, and that's very huge, but are you on other type of things? Are you trading gold, silver? As you see now, the gold prices are very high up, and silver too, it seems to me. At least last year it was. What is, you should probably learn what you are going into a lot. There's a lot to
absolutely.
learn here, so
You know what? I believe in being well diversified and being well educated on all forms of investments, as far as equities, as far as cryptocurrencies, as far as Forex, as far as derivatives, learning about futures, learning about everything is interconnected globally. And that's something I've taught myself is like where I'm very systematic in the mornings of trading. So I want to know what the Asian market was doing in the morning because it opens up before the North American market. I want to know what the DAX is doing in Germany. I want to know, the geopolitical, what's going on geopolitically.
yes.
You have to create a system for yourself that works for you when you do a pre-market analysis. And it's like you have to go boom, 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 boom. Just like how when I was a paramedic or firefighter, when I was a student, it was about learning like almost like an algorithm, like, of like, okay, as a paramedic, when you show up on scene to a call, what's the first thing that you're doing? Well, you got to make sure you're wearing your full PPI. And then second is how many patients are there? Has there been backup? You know, am I safe? It's like you have to train your brain to be systematic, and then say you go into a specific stock. Okay, well, what is the monthly chart doing? What is the weekly chart doing? Is it an uptrend, downtrend? Is it trading sideways, equilibrium? what's a daily chart doing? What's a 4 hour chart? And you learn over time how everything is correlated and how, for example, the 5 minute chart fits in with the 1 hour chart. And so you, as a stock trader or cryptocurrency trader, you're always trying to figure out the most likely scenario. Though just those simple words, what is the most likely scenario of this stock? Is it going to be, to be trading sideways, go uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, or is it a downtrend, lower lows, lower high, and lower high? So just keeping it like learning these things and treating your brain like a computer, I think has changed my life.
That was a lot of good advices there, I have to say. It's definitely, like you said as well, then you learn a method and some techniques and you train your brain to think that way and very fast, which you have to be when you are shorting. And also, I was thinking as well when you mentioned The Art of War. It's a very good book. It's Sun Tzu. And Robert Kiyosaki is one guy I've been following a lot. Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book, it changed my life just to learn the psychology of having the discipline of actually taking care of your bills, taking always save some money and have the mentality to learn that you can use $1 to work so you get more dollars and let the money work for you when you are asleep and these type of things. It's psychology and it's the mindset. So I think you're totally right when it comes to how important the psychology is and how to understand how people and how the market and everything works.
One thing I want to say to your listeners is, people that think that investing is gambling or that sort of thing, picture it like this. I'm 43 years old now, about to turn 44 years old. I was able to semi-retire at 35, because I started believing that there's something more to work for in this life than a pension. Because say you work, you this mentality of like, if you have like a full-time career and you have maybe a pension when you're 60, 65, you're gambling on the fact that you're going to be healthy enough to enjoy life when you retire. To me, that's a gamble. My father is 70 years old and he has bad health conditions. So this poor guy worked until he was 69 years old, and unfortunately he's had bad health. So gambling to me is not taking the opportunity to take a chance on changing your life, because who knows what's going to happen to you when you're 60.
That's actually a very good point too, because it's the chance you have now to be fully functional while you are in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, and make the most out of it. And like you said, go for it. You work so much faster, and it's so much. Today, I think it's so much knowledge out there, information out there, and it's so easy to access it as well. You just need to
Absolutely.
find the right information.
Absolutely.
And like you said, and I think that when we talk about the AI, what do you think that will, how do you think AI will change, for example, businesses mostly? Like you said, if you learn AI, can, for instance, I use AI a lot when I work on my podcast today because it's so more inefficient. And I use my ideas and my expertise as well. I'm a sound engineer, but I use a lot AI as well to save time. When I mix those things together, it's actually very unique for me, at least. Do you think a lot of professions will become like that you mix human beings and the AI, or do you think that AI will take over, or what kind of fields do you think that it will be most likely to be used in?
The best companies are going to incorporate AI into real life. I think that
Okay.
those people that are not creative, or those people that just use AI for everything, I think there's going to be a big boom where, like, people are creating these amazing videos, but they're not one of one. They're not sharing real life stories. But you're going to see for the next few years, we're going to see this, all these people just being able to type into like text like, "Oh, make me flying a dragon," like in Lord of the Rings or whatever those, those crazy, those sci-fi movies are. But they're can end up being very generic, whereas they will do well for a short amount of time, but the real people that will succeed in business or being creative or music, whatever, are people that are able to incorporate real life situations, real life stories, using AI to help them improve, but not
Yeah,
just relying
that's
on it.
I think so too, because if you are working with yourself as well and being creative, and you can be creative with AI too. So I think that you need both. You're gonna mix it. And I was also thinking AI. I think they say they use a lot of energy to use it and stuff like that, but And it's also people are saying that it's developing too fast. What do you, when it comes to, for example, if you're going to use AI in the military to actually warfare and stuff like that, where should we set the line, do you think, on how we, so we are not misusing it in a way? You understand?
You know what? Unfortunately, there is no line when it comes to capitalism and greed. Governments, especially in the US, are paid politicians by lobbyists, and these men do not care about you or me or anyone else. They just care about filling their own pockets. So it's very unfortunate. But if the people in power, they'll always want to create more wealth for themselves. And but there's, strategic, military operations. For example, Iran is using 20 to 30,000 drones in their war against $1.2 million Tomahawk missiles that the US is having to spend. The US is spending over $1 billion per day in the war, So it's technology is changing very quickly, even in warfare, and it's not good. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be robots versus robots and drones versus drones. But it's just the way the world is going.
It seems so. It's actually where we are today, it seemed to me. And it seems to me that everyone is trying to develop the fastest and the best advanced AI to probably, like you said, fill their own pockets. But I think that people like us and normal people can benefit a lot from it. Definitely, I
Absolutely.
believe that. And I think that it would be interesting if you can share a little bit about your passion for movies as well, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
I've always been a creative mind, for over 20 years, and I've always had ideas and dreams of being a film producer and creating real content. And especially in the last, 10 years, where we live in a society of like 10 Marvel movies, 10, super Spider-Mans, now James Cameron is creating the fourth Avatar. But in my mind, I grew up in I remember I'm now 43 years old. I'm old, but I grew up in a time where real films made an impact in my life. I grew up in a time of Goodwill Hunting, which is a film that created Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's career. I grew up in a time of, rom comedies. I grew up in a time of Will Ferrell, of Anchorman, Zoolander, of Old School. I find that studios don't make these movies anymore because they don't want to take the chance, because we live in especially in North America, we live in such a woke society where we don't want to offend anybody. But I'm not scared to offend anyone, because at the end of the day, I'm making fun of myself, I'm making fun of society. Like in this been working on this screenplay for a long time about online dating, where I make fun of society, I make fun of myself, like where a character, goes on dates with a woman who's got fake lips and Botox and, and all that stuff. And just realistically making fun of society of where we are today. And as a Latino, I've had a lot of racism in my life, but I'm okay with it now. I never used to be, but I'm okay with it now, where I could make fun of myself, like always loving tacos and all these different things. And I'm not afraid to take chances in film, because I'm not like, when I wanted to be an actor 20 years ago, it was so hard. I left Canada, I moved to Los Angeles, and just like I remember it was Craigslist back then, and just like trying to find an audition on Craigslist. And I was living in like Venice Beach, and having to take a bus for 3 hours to get to Burbank to go for one audition. And then you get there, and there's like 40 other men for the same role, and like 20 of them were much more
Wow.
handsome than I was. But you know what? Now with social media and where we are in technology with like Vimo, I want to create content and be like, hey man, like I want to just create my own stuff, and like, if people like it, pay 99 cents, pay $2.99 on Vimo, and then I could create the next project, and God willing, I can make you laugh or make you think. There's so many amazing stories in this world that aren't being told, because we're all strangled held by Hollywood. Who gives a fuck what Hollywood is doing? The best artists, their work is always at the very beginning. You think of stand-up comedians, their work dies off. Why? Because they lose touch with reality. They lose touch with the common man. Like I've seen some stand-up comedians go up there, like Pauly Shore. This guy used to be amazing in the '90s, but he goes up there on stage and talks about how rich he is, how many women he sleeps with because he's a celebrity. Most people can't. Well, you have to create stuff that's relatable.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Relatable is the key word there. But when you create your movies, do you use a lot of AI there, or do you?
You know,
How
I'm
do
just,
you?
I'm just, learning about this all, technology, like Sora 2. I haven't started working with it yet. But right now it's just been about creating shorts of, like, not using any technology and just giving jobs to people. Because I find, like, I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, if I have the money to give someone a video editor, a sound engineer, if I have the money to do it, I'd rather pay them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people in the entertainment industry are suffering. They are,
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's
It's
just
a
been my
very
philosophy.
it's I think it's always it will be sound engineers and people in this business too, but it will maybe be a lot fewer or something. Or you have to create your own type of thing, be more creative for yourself, probably. I think so. Yeah, I was thinking as well. You have been traveling nomad so long, and you've been a lot of places. Do you have any particular favorite or anything that you really you never will forget? Good memories or a good story there?
Honestly,
Plenty.
I've traveled to over 60 countries now. And, I got to say, like, at least 30, 35 of them were like really memorable experiences. And the beauty of it is, like, you never know when you're going to have like a interesting experience with somebody, like, I've cycled around the country of Georgia, and sometimes, like, having a flat tire, and just like, I knew nothing of the language, knew nothing of the culture. But you have other, you know, you have nothing else to but rely on other people, because unless you're going to be walking for 4 or 5 days and then you run out of water, so you go and knock on, like, strangers' doors, and you really understand how, like, people are just good people generally, and people are there to help you. And in this world, like, I think, like, that news, like CNN, Fox News, and all these different outlets, we always talk about the bad that's going on in the world, but let's talk about the good. I mean, I couldn't even start to tell you so many different stories of, like, where I've been inspired, or like people have helped me out. And then that pushes me to be a better human being. That teaches me to be a better person, when I go back to my home country. And I think that the way that we stop racism is by sharing stories and by sharing each other's cultures. Because in Canada, growing up there in the 1990s, I went through a lot of racism in my life, and it would really bother me at first, but it also made me, like, realize, I'm like, man, I never want to be like these other ignorant people. I believe I want to live in a society where, like, we embrace each other's cultures. Hey, what are you eating? What's it taste like? How did you make it? Can I try some? Living in Asia the last few years, I was able really to embrace Asian culture. And I didn't make it to Japan, but, like, Japan is another country I really want to explore. It was like, and share my experiences, because at the end of the day, man, like, we're all human beings, and I've always had this mentality of, like, politics, religion, wealth separate us, but maybe through fashion, maybe through, stand-up comedy, maybe through films, we could bring us each other together, where we have where we could all laugh at each other, you know what I mean? And but have a good time and learn about each other.
I totally agree, and I can relate to everything you said there. I grew up in Norway, and back in the 90s as well, it was pretty rough to be an Indian. I'm a Indian Norwegian guy, but yeah, I can relate to it, and I totally agree. I have the same mindset as you have, and I'm curious about people. I'm curious about the world and different cultures, food. Why do they think like they do? Their history. It's so wonderful. And I totally agree as well when it comes to the news and everything on TV. We should be more focused on everything that is good in life too, because it's a lot there. That and like you said, we are just people trying to make the best for ourselves and everyone we care for and stuff. So very inspiring to hear that. And must have been amazing to be traveling to all those countries. I love to travel myself, so I'm gonna try to do that more now in the future.
One day I'm sure we'll meet up and we'll have some tacos and some chicken
That would
curry
be
and you
perfect.
know,
I love tacos. It's my favorite, and Indian food too, though. But
yeah.
tacos, I can eat and eat. That would be perfect. So I was also thinking, what are your dreams now and your plans forward in life in the future?
Well, right now it's developing this online platform, which I have always thought like the best ideas in this world, the multi-billion dollar businesses, companies, startups, tech startups are companies that solve an issue in the world. And like Uber was fucking amazing because it gave people an opportunity to make income from their vehicle. Airbnb was fucking phenomenal because it gave people an opportunity to make income from their homes. But in 10 years, Uber is not going to be around. It's going to be robo taxis. And right now, Airbnb is having a big backlash in certain jurisdictions because locals are complaining about so many tourists. Hotels are complaining because they're losing businesses. So imagine creating something, an ecosystem of where people that are creative can make income to make a name for yourself in the podcasting world, in YouTube, in social media. It takes a long, long time. It takes years to create a following of like 100,000 real followers. No, but
Yeah, a long
what if
time.
you cut out the fat and just make it so like the good people are the algorithms. If you're funny, if you're a stand-up comedian, if you're funny, you're going to get noticed right away. And I'm creating right now my own cryptocurrency through the Solano layer one, and so people can tip. Say like I've met some amazing stand-up comedians. These guys, they travel all of one of my friends in particular. He's traveling. He travels all of Italy. He's East Indian. His full-time job is in research and this guy's super smart, but he travels all of Italy trying to do a stand-up comedy. But imagine, and he probably makes, 50, $60 a night. But imagine if this guy's hilarious. But imagine giving him a real platform where say like, whatever, I don't want to say his name, but like say Mr. X on Friday night at 6 p.m., you can have a similar to like a webinar, a live show where you can have AI, create like a stadium atmosphere around you so it looks professional, and you're going to stand up there and say jokes. People are scared of saying jokes a lot of time because of the audience. But like I know for myself, when I started doing stand-up comedy, I felt so much more comfortable at home. So imagine like somebody able to make like a income of like, who knows, say you have 3,000 viewers, and half of them were able to tip, donate, 50 cents. Well, you just made a lot of money very quickly in half an hour. And that's going to push you to want to be funnier the next time because we have such a gap right now where people want to be in entertainment. So it's either like you're Hollywood, Netflix, or you're nothing. But
Yes,
there's
yeah.
people here that deserve a chance. Just last week, I was here in Sicily, and I heard the most amazing person on the violin. Oh my God, he was so amazing. Imagine him having a platform where he could make real money so he doesn't have to stand outside making, a euro, tips, but he makes real money.
That would be brilliant if had a platform like that, and it's something I would definitely be a part of if it was an opportunity for that. It's a very good idea, and it's something that a lot of people need now.
Yeah.
Definitely makes it more real and more authentic. The whole thing. Very good idea. Very
Thank you.
good idea. So I was also. Is there anything else you think we should talk about?
No, man, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully we can meet in real life, but keep pushing forward, man. Like I love, I listened to some parts of your other episodes, and eventually, I will reach out to you and try to help you monetize better so you can continue what you're doing because we need real people. We need real content in this world. Fuck CNN, fuck Fox News. We need real content.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. I really do. But I have one more question left. So, the fortitude, which is the name of the podcast, it means strength. What kind of state of mind, mental qualities, or personal techniques have you relied on most throughout your life?
Honestly, I've had to develop a confidence in my life where you can't tell me that I can't do something. And I think I got that from two people. And I'll say from the very beginning, I'm not saying I'm trying to be an NBA basketball player or anything like that, but I'm just saying their mentality inspired me in everything that I do. And two of them are Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, where they had this mentality of like, of confidence, of confidence, whatever you can do. And I'll just share with you one more story is like, in 2012, when I wanted to apply for Vancouver Fire Department, one of my best friends growing up, he's like, Louis, he's like, don't even bother applying. He's like, I know guys that have applied for 3 or 4 years, and they never got on the fire department because it's a very hard fire department to get on. And my answer was, Lance, I'm not here to apply for a job. I'm here to get a fucking career. And you know what? Out of like 800 applicants, I was number 17, that got on. And when I got on, I'm like, I wanted to learn from the top 16 people that got on before me. I wanted to learn how they're better than me. So I've always had that mentality of like, I want to learn from people that are better than me. I'm not jealous of anyone on this planet. I just want to learn so I can be better myself.
You know what? A brilliant way to see things. And Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan were brilliant as well in their game. It's like it's so poetic watching them doing their thing when they were brilliant people. And what you say as well, I think your mindset is extraordinary, good and positive, and we need more people like you as well. I mean, just to all the knowledge you have, and like you said, you just want to learn and learn from other people. I think that's a very good mental state to have in this world, and it makes people very good as well and humble. I think it's brilliant. So I will always remember that. And it's confidence, like you said, it's important to create when you do stuff. So I would just say thank you so much for your time, and it was an honor to have you on.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
If you liked this episode, it would mean a lot if you liked, shared, and subscribed, and left a comment with any ideas how to improve the podcast. All of this would really help the podcast grow. Thank you for your support.